When we first started talking about Jerusalem, or the city we've taken as the symbol of the Hebrew legacy, I told you that a big part of the Hebrew legacy is the story these people tell about themselves, the story they tell about their ancestors, where they say their ancestors went, what they say their ancestors did, that sort of thing. And I've given you a brief outline of the major characters and the major events in the Hebrew story. But another big part of the Hebrew legacy is a bunch of ideas. Big ideas, powerful ideas. Ideas that are so big and so powerful that my big challenge is to convince you that these really are big, powerful ideas. Because they're ideas which have just become basic to Western culture. Basic to the way that people who grew up within Western culture think about things like time and the physical universe and so on. They're just foundational to Western culture. And even to think about them as big ideas strikes some people as odd. Because they just become foundational to the culture that most of us have grown up in and that all of us live in. Big ideas, powerful ideas. Ideas that all come out of one great, big, powerful idea. And that's the idea of monotheism. It's a big idea. Some people have said the biggest idea anyone ever had. The idea, the belief, that at the foundation of the whole universe lies personality. That what is ultimately real about the entire universe is personality. It's a big idea, it's a powerful idea, and it spins out an awful lot of other big, powerful ideas. I'd like you to think, follow along with me on a few lines of thought here. If you'd wandered into a Hebrew village, say, 3,000 years ago, and you met some people and they told you some stories about their ancestors, and you said, after listening to a few of these stories, you said, well, this really is a great storytelling culture. You've got a lot of interesting stories about your ancestors. But I noticed that as you tell your stories about your ancestors, that God shows up an awful lot in your stories. And so you must have some kind of religion, too. And once you get past the Bible stories and the Sunday school stories, or the Sabbath school stories, I guess, once you get past, the stories, how does your religion really work? What's up with your religion? Can you explain something to me about your religion? Well, they'd probably start off exactly where the Hebrew Bible starts off, with a statement of belief. A belief that the world is good, that the physical universe is good. It's the starting point of the Hebrew Bible, the first chapter of Genesis, that the world is good. Now, why would these monotheistic people believe that the physical universe is good? Well, yeah, because God made it. If God made it, then it's going to be good. I mean, if we believe that God is a good God, and if we believe that God created the world, then it would make sense to conclude that that the world is good. Because if God is a good God, and He makes something, then it would be good. The physical universe is good. In fact, some of you have read the story in a literature course or a Bible class of some kind. If you read what's sometimes called the first creation story, from Genesis 1:1 to Genesis 2:4, over and over again when God makes something, what does God say? That's right, He says, that's good. That's good. He makes clouds and says, clouds are good. He makes stars and says, man, stars are pretty cool. He makes squirrels and says, man, squirrels are pretty fun to look at. He makes trees and say, man, trees are good. And then when everything is all made, at the very end of the story, when everything is made, He says it's all very good. All the good pieces, when it's all together, is all very good. So they believe that the world is good. Why? Because God created it. God doesn't make junky stuff. Okay, God would make good stuff. Now this idea, this belief that the world is good, is not exactly unique in the ancient world. But it is very, very rare. It's very, very rare to hear such an articulated statement that the physical universe is good. The default position in the ancient world is that the physical universe is a bad thing. Think about Plato. For Plato, is the physical universe a good thing? No, it's just a cave. It's just shadows on the wall. It's not real. It's illusory. It's transitory. It's just stuff. It's just shadows on the wall. It's nothing like the perfect, real world of the theos thing. If you've studied world religions, you know that for most of what we in the West call Hinduism, for most of what we call Buddhism, the physical universe is a bad thing because it traps our spirit. Our spirits are trapped within our physical bodies, and we can't unite with other spirits. The physical universe is something to be overcome through suffering and karma and these kinds of things to escape the physical universe, because the physical universe is a bad thing. And that's the default position in the ancient world. But here we have a group of people in the ancient world who argue that the physical universe is good. Why? Because God made it. But not only do they believe that the world is good, the physical universe is good, but they also believe that people are good. Now, why would they believe that people are good? Well, God made them too. But these people say, these people believe, people are even better than the physical universe. They're even more valuable than the physical universe. They're even better than the physical universe. Why? Because these people believe that human beings are created in a special way, created in the image of God. I give you the Latin phrase there, imago Dei. Latin's a bit out of place, but it's the phrase that gets used, the imago Dei. It's the belief, and all we're doing here is outlining religious belief, just like we did with Sumer and Egypt and Athens, and, we're not finished yet. If you're not used to it by now, you'll get used to it by the end of the semester. All we're doing here is outlining religious belief. But it's a belief that human beings are created in the image of God. It's a phrase that again comes right out of that first creation story in Genesis 1. Male and female, He created them. In the image of God, He created them. The belief that men and women are made in the image of God. Now, what would that mean? Well, that's something the theologians have argued about for thousands of years, okay? There's all kinds of options on the table. But at root, what it means is what the words mean. And the Hebrew word that's used here literally means a reflection. That there's something about human beings which is like God. There's something about human beings which reflect something about God. There's something God-like about human beings. That they reflect something about God. And that the original plan is that men and women would have children, and they would have children, and they would have children, and eventually the entire earth would be covered with little bitty reflections of God. That there's something God-like about human beings. Now, what would that be? Well, like I said, there's lots of options on the table. The theologians have discussed this for thousands of years. Personality. Human beings have personality. God has personality. Is that what is God like about human beings? Rationality. Creativity. God creates things. Human beings create things. Is that creativeness a reflection of God? Well, there's an awful lot there, a lot of options on the table, like I said. But at root, what it means is that there's a belief that there's something even more valuable than the physical universe about human beings, because there's something God-like about human beings. The human beings in some way are designed to be like God. And so these people believe that the world is good, and that people are good. They believe the world is good because God created it. They believe that the people are good because God created them, but also that God created them in a particular way that makes them even more valuable, more special, more gooder, better than the physical universe. Well, at this point, if you'd wandered into a Hebrew village, say, 3,000 years ago, and you asked them about their religion, and they started telling you this. At this point, you might say, "Well, now you're very nice people, okay, and I certainly don't want to be disrespectful. You've been very kind to me, and I certainly don't want to get in an argument over these kinds of things, okay, and I certainly want to show you no disrespect. But I mean, come on. You say the world is good because God created it. I understand why you're saying that. Okay. You say that people are good because God created them too. Okay, I guess that would kind of make sense. This imago Dei thing's a pretty heavy thing to throw at me, but I guess I get what you mean. You're saying that there's something about human beings which is like God. I'm going to have to think about that, but at least I think I understand what you're trying to get at. But now, come on. I mean, you really can't believe this. I mean, I understand why you say these things. I understand your thought process, but I mean, come on. The world is good. What about earthquakes and hurricanes and tornadoes and cancer and heart attacks and all that kind of stuff? That's not good. And I see why you believe that people are good, but come on, have you ever met any? What about Hitler and Stalin and Osama bin Laden and the Vice President for Academic Affairs over in Building 1? What about those people? They're not any good. They're evil. And so, I don't mean any disrespect now. And certainly I don't want to get in an argument over these kinds of things. But, I mean, there's a little bit of a problem here. To which these people would say, oh, yeah, there's a problem. We haven't gotten to the problem yet. There's a problem. The problem is that people mess up. Sin, to use theological language. People mess up. This is something that is very difficult to communicate very quickly about ancient Hebrew religion, the ancient Hebrew worldview, way of looking at the world. Worldview is just another word for religion. It just doesn't carry the same kind of weight. Some people get nervous about religion. You talk about worldview, it's a little bit different thing to say. It's very difficult to communicate very quickly about ancient Hebrew religion, the ancient Hebrew worldview. But it's like there's a connection between human behavior and the physical universe. In fact, there's a connection between everything. It's like God creates the whole universe as one thing. It's all one unit. It's all one system. It's all one thing. You almost want to say like it's all one machine, but you start thinking along those lines, you're getting yourself into all kinds of knots. But it's kind of like a machine. It's all like one unit. It's like one thing. It's like one system. And when one part of the system goes wrong, the whole thing doesn't work the way it was designed to work. So, back up a step or two with me. God creates the universe as one thing, one unit, one system. And it's good, okay. But it's very good. But then something goes wrong. Human behavior. People mess up. Human behavior goes wrong, and the whole system gets knocked off balance. It doesn't work the way it was designed to work. Well, you see how what role this plays in the religious system. Okay. Well, that would explain why there are bad things in the physical universe. That would explain tornadoes and earthquakes and hurricanes and cancer and heart attacks and all that kind of stuff, because the physical universe isn't working the way it was designed to work. The system isn't functioning the way God designed it to function. That would explain where bad people come from, because bad people are exhibiting bad behavior. Okay. And so you've killed two birds with one stone here. You've explained why the physical universe has these bad things in it, like all these problems, and why there are bad people, because people mess up. So if the problem is that people mess up, what would the solution be? Of course, everybody grabbed that, right? The solution, if the problem is that people mess up, what would the solution be? The solution would be stop messing up. Don't mess up. Stop messing up. Okay, I guess you got me. If the problem is that people mess up, the solution would be to stop messing up. Okay. But you might say, okay, I guess I see what you're getting at, but I can't stop messing up. I mess up all the time. Sometimes I try really hard not to mess up, and I still mess up. Sometimes I mess up more when I'm trying not to mess up than I do when I don't even care if I mess up or not. I can't stop messing up. At which point these people would say, we know. That's the human condition. The human condition is that people mess up. The human condition is that we can't stop messing up. But, these people say, God gives us something. God gives us something to help us stop messing up. And that's the law. The laws, the rules. God gives us these laws. There's an awful lot of them. They apply to just about every situation you can think of. You'd be hard-pressed to come up with a moral situation that these laws didn't apply to. And the belief is that if you learn these laws, and you study them, and you meditate on them, and they become just a part of your daily thought process of thinking your way through these laws, and if you begin to apply them to your lives and live your lives according to these rules and principles, then you would stop messing up. And the implication is that if everybody followed God's laws, if everybody stopped messing up, then the whole universe would come back into balance. It would once more be the beautiful, perfect world that God designed it to be. If everybody obeyed God's laws, then the whole universe would once more, instead of being this thing that's out of balance, it would once more be the perfect world God designed it to be. And there wouldn't be earthquakes and heart attacks and tornadoes and cancer and heart attacks and bad people and all that kind of stuff. It would once more be the perfect world that God designed it to be. And once you start to catch just a glimpse of that attitude, of that way of thinking about the law, then you also have some insights into something else that's, I'm convinced, unique among ancient world religions. And that is a great affection for the law, a love of the law. There are whole love songs in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, whole love poems written to extol the beauty of the laws, how beautiful the laws are, how peaceful they are, how perfect they are. Whole love songs about the law. Whole poems written about how beautiful the laws are. Poems that go, when it's late at night and I can't get any sleep, I think about God's laws. And they calm me down, and I'm able to get some peacefulness in my soul, and I'm able to get some rest. Okay, this is a very unique attitude to have towards the laws. What I mean by this is that at some point, all of us have had some English teacher give us a homework assignment to go home and write a poem, and I bet none of you ever wrote a poem about how much you love the rules at school. When it's late at night and I've got troubles on my mind, I just think about the rules at school. And they calm me down, and I find some peace, and I'm able to get some rest. It's a very unique attitude towards the law. Most people, I think, see rules as something somebody else puts on you. It's like a burden on you. But these people, you see, they see the law as a great gift, as a gift from God, that if everybody followed the law, then the whole universe would be the way God designed it to be. It's a beautiful gift, you see, to these people, because by following these laws is the way to create a better world, to recreate the world the way God designed it to be. It's the key, the secret to restoring the universe to the perfect world that God created it to be, designed it to be, intended it to be. And there you see something that I'm convinced is unique in ancient world religion, which is a great affection and love for the law. Well, what I've done here is, several things here. There's an awful lot of big ideas here, okay? But I've also given you, I think, a fair introduction to certainly most groups within Judaism today. I'm well aware there's more than one group of Jewish people in the world today. But certainly for ancient Hebrew religion, an introduction and some insights into a starting point for thinking about Judaism and ancient Hebrew religion. I think that's a fair introduction, a fair kind of summary starting point, introduction for thinking about how Judaism works. If you're thinking, well, what's up with Judaism? I think, well, that's a fair introduction. It's a fair starting point for thinking about how ancient Hebrew religion and most groups within Judaism today think about their religion. But also a bunch of big ideas. I think of the big ideas here, certainly in shaping Western culture. Where's my computer? It's not waking up. I think of the ideas I've got here on the board, the one I'm trying to point out to you has a big... There we go. Now it's cleared up. The big one in shaping Western culture, I think, it's a good candidate for the big one, at least, is the first thing here. The world is good. The physical universe is good. That just becomes the default position in Western culture. To think about the physical universe is a good thing. I mean, no matter what we might think, after reading Plato's allegory of the cave, and maybe it gets us thinking about some things, I don't think many of us find it very convincing. I don't think many of us, when we walked into the classroom today, just sat down and said, it's just a cave. Life is just shadows on the wall. I think most of us, when we got up this morning, went outside, didn't say, "Oh, I'm trapped in a physical universe." We went outside, kind of stretched, and hey, it's a pretty nice world out here. Most of us feel comfortable with the idea that we have physical bodies. I don't think many people walking down the hallway outside, walking along, feel like their spirit is trapped within the very physicality of their existence and feel oppressed by the physical nature of their being. I think that most people who grew up in Western culture feel kind of comfortable living in a physical universe. It's kind of a nice thing to have. It's a nice thing to take care of. That it's not something oppressive, but that the physical universe is good. So here we've got, I think, a fair and a good introduction to most groups within Judaism today, and certainly for ancient Hebrew religion, and some big ideas. I think most foundational here, the belief that the physical universe is good. I want you to follow a second line of thought with me in just a minute.